Now we're going to talk about Candlekeep Mysteries, which has about 17 stories in it. I am thankful that I'm almost friends with everyone in that book. So it's definitely a celebration of a lot of different voices, a lot of great authors, and a lot of different fun and strange stories. I'm looking at you, Amy Vorpal, that are included in this book. So we're going to talk about, and we talked about a little bit on Todd Talks, but we're going to talk about perhaps the optimal subclasses and also, backgrounds for this particular adventure. So sorry.
Oh, we're super excited about this. Take a drink of water. Everybody take a drink and stretch. I've also been informed by my moderators in chat that they're actually running a giveaway right now for Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So if you liked any of the stuff we talked about, or if you want to prepare any of these characters that we're going to talk about shortly, go ahead and enter for a chance to win Tasha's, because there's a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of subclasses that are, and a lot of just options that are really crunchy. They're useful for running a character in a mystery.
So for out of the gate, like I know we have a couple of like usual suspects when it comes to subclasses for Candlekeep Mysteries. I'm sure everyone immediately thinks of the Rogue Inquisitive. Very hard not to, but I think there are far more options. So what's some of your key lists that you feel?
Do you want my key list or do you want my weird one?
Go ahead and go for your weird one.
Okay, I have a couple of weird ones because I went through when we were talking about this, and so here's the thing about mysteries. Yeah, obviously the rogue kind of has the market on being an investigator, but some people just want to be a barbarian. And
that's true.
What if you want to be a barbarian and you're in a mystery game? You're going to play one of these Candlekeep Mysteries. Might I suggest the path of the Ancestral Guardian?
Okay, sell me on this.
So the main reason I kind of was looking through some of these subclasses and picking out specifically either powers or abilities that are going to help in a situation that is outside of combat, let's say. And so, yeah, barbarians are kind of combat focused, but if you're a Path of the Ancestral Guardian, you get this fun thing at 10th level in where you get the ability to cast the Augury or Clairvoyance spell. And the role playing behind this is you've got this group of spirits who are literally your ancestors. And I really like the idea of being able to cast these two spells as the mechanical way of consulting the spirits, of talking to the ethereal and gaining knowledge in that way, kind of the same way that a diviner wizard could, or somebody else. And I think then when you have the action adventure Sherlock Holmes moment later where you're chasing down the bad guy, then you can be full barbarian and go do fun things. But you get a chance to talk to the spirits. And if I was a DM, I would definitely let you use this as a way of talking to the spirits of maybe the deceased murderer's family, or maybe you have a ancestor in your background who was a investigator or a city watch, and gaining some insight that way. So if you still want to go barbarian, might I suggest some Ancestral Guardians, because then you have some smart people to talk to.
Well, I mean, certainly to that end, and that is fantastic. That is an unusual edge case for a barbarian being helpful in one of the greatest libraries in all of the Forgotten Realms and Faerun. Let's take a look at the Path of Wild Magic, because we have something kind of similar here as well. Right out of the gate, I believe you have magical awareness. As an action, you can open up your awareness and your presence to concentrated magic. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any spell or magic item within 60 feet of you that isn't behind total cover. When you sense a spell, you learn which school of magic it belongs to. You can use this feature a number of times, equal to your proficiency bonus. Now, this is essentially detect magic in many ways, but it's not specifically the spell, and I believe this works a little bit better than the spell itself. So what's great about the Path of Wild Magic is you are effectively a radioactive barbarian. And strangely and consequently, you are also kind of a barometer. You can tell when magic is nearby. And so right out third level, this is very useful. If you are navigating any kind of area, you are detecting magical items and spell effects all around your party at very little cost, frankly. And so this is like a very efficient barbarian. On top of this, they can even grant someone a spell slot eventually.
Well, and what I like about this is, especially at third level, spell slots in general are really limited. And while detect magic and identifying some of those can be cast as a ritual, depending on the other people in your party, there could be limited amounts of time or uses of that. And so having a barbarian who has other things that they are primarily good at, who can also just ping, that is a really good idea.
Yeah, and it works very nice with the barbarian because they have that primal sense. They kind of sense danger. And so this barbarian senses magic itself. They are hugely tied up in the weave, almost in a kind of Bruce Banner Hulk kind of way. I have to say it's a close second between this and the Way of the Beast and the what. I lean quite heavily towards the wild magic barbarian because I'm amazingly obsessed with wild magic. So I think this is very effective.
Absolutely.
So what else besides barbarians would you recommend in a giant library that is heavily protected?
Let's talk about some clerics.
Okay.
Let's have some fun with some clerics. As I said, I kind of went through and I was looking at all these clerics. I think there are two really good options. Clerics in general are going to have a suite of spells that they'll have access to that will be very useful in any kind of investigation, including things that involve talking to, say, dead bodies. But there's two specific subclasses that I think work really well. The first one being the knowledge domain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be an investigator, definitely some of the proficiencies that you get, the ability to just decide that you have proficiency in something for a little while, a skill or a tool is really strong, especially in the moment in where everybody is standing around going, man, if only one of us could insert. Well, here you go. You've got a cleric that can read your thoughts. So when you are actually interrogating somebody or, talking to a witness or trying to gather more information, being able to use your abilities to read surface thoughts and even cast suggestion it's not something usually you hear about clerics doing, but this is really good for when you're having those social interactions. And then when you get to really high level, there's like 3 billion TV shows that are all mediums who can touch things and they see, I'm going to read them the murder weapon information. Well, here you go. You can be one of those characters. You can touch an object and see visions of what was happening to the owner of that object. And so if you have the murder weapon and you are a 17th level knowledge cleric, there you go. Would you like to see what happened with this?
Well, and before we even get to the object reading, if you scroll up a little bit, this is exceptionally handy at low level. Not only you can channel your divinity to suddenly have the ability to use one skill or tool for 10 minutes, even if you were not proficient in that particular skill or tool. And if you scroll up a little bit more, you are coming right out of the gate with Arcana, History, Nature, and Religion. So you are very knowledge-based. You already are very proficient in all these skills. That's huge starting out. Skills I find to be very powerful. I love skills in D&D. It's my favorite thing. It's something that this is why I enjoy rogues quite a bit because they're so good at it. And I feel like that can definitely turn the tide in the plot lines often, whether you are proficient in something or not. So. And
yeah.
there's one more high tier ability, right?
I thought, the 17th is their top one because remember, clerics get their 20th level ability is part of their Hey, I'm a 20th level cleric
too.
Oh yeah, that's true. You could just read an entire area, and then hey, if you're a 20th level cleric, you just ask your god for the information that you need. Just like,
that's
hey,
cheating.
It's not cheating. It is working hard to be powerful enough that your god will just show up whenever you ask, every 7 days.
All
But yeah,
right, what's our next cleric who is a good investigator?
I think the other one that's really good is the Arcana Domain for a lot of the same reasons that the Knowledge Domain cleric thrives. Not
Right.
only the access to a lot of the same spells, but like you were just saying, access to skills that are really going to shine in an investigative sense, and the ability to then sense the presence of a variety of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about your other channel divinity, in where you can have access to basically dealing with otherworldly creatures, which in a D&D mystery, I would think a lot of the devil made me do it might be a real reason that something happened, it's something being hidden on another plane of existence, or that kind of mystery could definitely be taking place. And the fact that you have access to, in some of these higher levels, dealing with spell effects that as a cleric you might not necessarily be able to natively, but is more along the wizard domain. And so if you don't have a wizard player who's going to have access to some of the higher level spells in your spell book, then this will give you an access to not necessarily multi-class, but have those options at your fingertips. And I really
Mm-hmm.
feel like for a game that is going to involve these kind of mysteries, having options is the key.
Absolutely.
And out of combat options, I should say.
That is true.
Yeah. Did you have another one you wanted to talk about, or I could pull up another weird one?
It's important to remember that when we talk about artificers, very specifically, you are capable very early on, in fact, I think immediately, of creating a lantern of revealing. The lantern of revealing will show anything that's invisible in the room.
Ooh.
And if I'm involved in a mystery, I might be having that lantern on 24/7. So, and artificers also have basically expertise in tools. So if they have an expertise in some kind of investigation tool related to that, they're probably going to be exceptionally good at that particular stuff. This also comes into play if they use one of their infusions to make, say, a homunculus as well. The homunculus can get into locations that normally you cannot. And they have extremely high intelligence. Flash of Genius as well is exceptionally powerful. Imagine getting to add your intelligence bonus to any, and I mean additionally. So even if you have an intelligence-based skill, you can add Flash of Genius, and you become very good at every skill that you want to be good at. And this is what I love about it, because this is like this can explain, like in Iron Man, why Tony Stark is so charismatic, right? He just knows the right thing to say because he's a genius.
Yep.
So also being able to use just about any magical item in the entire D&D multiverse is kind of a big deal. And I think this is something overly looked when it comes to artificers. Yeah, sure, you probably don't have a lot of resurrection magic when it comes to being an artificer, but hey, you can attune to anything a cleric can, and you can do it better. So I think not any specific one of these. Certainly the alchemist has a nice toolkit of being able to levitate and a couple of other things. But artificers, I think, are a natural fit for an investigator. They also can create, gloves of thievery. Do we have magical? Can we see the magical infusion list as it stands in this subclass right now?
Let's move on down to so here's the replaceable magic items, and then of course there's some of the special ones that the artificer gets to do. And it is there are a giant selection of utility items that are going to be excellent as an investigative tool.
So hover over Wand of Secrets. And this is second level. Yeah. This wand has 3 charges. While holding it, you can use an action to expend one of the charges. If there is a secret door or trap within 30 feet of you, the wand pulses and points to the direction of the nearest one near you. How huge is that?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have Wand of Magic Detection, which is going to detect magic. You've got a Rope of Climbing because, those libraries get pretty tall. And again, when we talk about Bag of Holding, very convenient. You may not know where you're going when it comes to the adventures in the Mysteries of Candlekeep. So a Cap of Water Breathing maybe isn't the worst. And of course, Lauren Urban's favorite magical item in the universe, the Alchemy Jug, because God knows when you need an entire pint of mayonnaise.
Oh, not just pint. 4 gallons of mayonnaise.
4 gallons of mayonnaise.
4 gallons. It's really important. 4 gallons.
Why did you do it? Why did you do it, D&D? So what do we have at 6th level?
At 6th level, we get a little bit, there's your Lantern of Revealing, but we get a little bit into some of the more protective stuff.
Yeah.
But what I really like is Eyes of Charming.
Eyes of Charming is very powerful. Even though Charm Person is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But Boots of Elvenkind, Cloak of Elvenkind, and also, what else is in here? And Gloves of Thievery. So this is the funny thing about artificers. I know you thieves like to feel like you're the best thieves in the world. But if you're an artificer and you can have a Cloak of Elvenkind or Boots of Elvenkind and the Gloves of Thievery, they have you outmatched. And when they hit 7th level and they get that flash of genius, they're not going to not be able to steal anything. Like, they're going to always be able to steal all the things. They've got like a +5 with a +4 probably at this point. And then whatever other proficiency bonus they have on top of this, they're stealing your stuff.
There's a bunch of rogues who are really upset at you right now. We're just like,
I love rogues. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're going to have a rogue and an artificer off at some point who can steal the best. And that's going to be interesting.
It's rough. It's rough, especially if you decide to take a feat that also gives you expertise, then it's a done deal. However, I do have comments about the arcane trickster later on. So
do we want to go to that now? Because we've talked about rogues.
Yeah, I think we've seen most of the let's scroll down a little bit real quick. Oh, sorry. We lost it.
Oh, it's not lost. I just need to scroll a little bit. Oh, I need to go back up to class features. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Because we've just kind of said rogues at the beginning, but eventually we should talk about the rogues.
Yeah, disguise is good for infiltration, certainly. But
Eyes of the Eagle is really good for we've been talking about like interiors of dungeons and inside investigations, but just because it's a mystery doesn't mean it has to be indoors. So being able to have some really good long distance perception checks is awesome.
Medallion of Thoughts and Helm of Telepathy, all good.
Pipes of the Sewers. Would you like to have a swarm of rats helping you find clues?
Always. And what do we have at the very top tier here?
Oh, let's see.
Boots of Levitation. We've got Cloak of the Vat, Dimensional Shackles, Gem of Seeing. What's the thing on Gem of Seeing?
As an action, you can speak the gem's command word and expend one charge. Yeah.
You get True Sight. Is there anything an artificer can't do? No.
All of it.
They can do all of it.
They can do all of it, but only bits and pieces of all of it.
Yes, but some of the best bits and pieces.
Oh yeah. But you do have to pick and choose. I mean, an artificer definitely has a wealth of options, but eventually you do have to decide which ones you're going to go for, which is half the fun.
My personal favorite is the artificer armor with the infiltrator build. And that's what I'm going to say there. Super stealthy, super thievery, very fun.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we go on to the big ones, the rogue?
We should, and then I have a couple other suggestions past that, but we would be remiss if we did not do more than just mention how good rogues are going to be in a mystery themed game. Yeah. Which one would you like to go for first? Because I can think of 4 or 5 of these subclasses.
First off, rogues get expertise, and a lot of it. So they in the beginning they get 2 things of expertise. They double their proficiency bonus. And then later on, they get 2 more pretty rapidly. This is exceptional if you want to have high insight, perception, investigation checks. This is pretty critical. So I think the first one that comes to both our minds, though, ultimately is the Inquisitive.
Absolutely. Inquisitive and Mastermind, I think, actually both rank up
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
But they are both excellent. But definitely the Inquisitive is essentially the Sherlock Holmes build. It is being able to pick out deceit. It is being able to find the details in whatever situation you are. It is getting advantage on perception and investigation checks just by standing still for a moment. You're able to sense illusions, shape changers, and other things that are meant to obscure the obviousness of something, which is sometimes I would think in a D&D game, especially the way that anyone who's trying to cover up a crime is going to be
Hmm.
doing it. And then you're also a pretty damn good rogue fighter who can dish out a lot of damage. So
Yeah.
this is definitely I think the classic investigator build.
This is quite literally inspired by Robert Downey. It's funny that D&D has actually two subclasses in it that are inspired by Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of characters. So this is inspired by Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Sherlock Holmes. And certainly Sherlock Holmes was exceptionally strong, actually, in the books. He could bend a poker into basically a ribbon. He was that strong, and then unbend it. That's not widely known. But yeah, Sherlock Holmes was exceptionally strong. But in the movies with Robert Downey Jr., he analyzes someone's physicality and knows exactly what word to punch them. And it's a perfect way to basically flavor your sneak attack in almost a monk way. And I love Inquisitives. Inquisitives
Mhm.
are so fun. And I also like them because they're not magical. And they can detect even something when they're polymorphed or they're a werewolf or they have some other form. They just have that kind of genius awareness to their environment. And I really have a soft spot in D&D because everyone is basically a Gish these days and everyone has magic. I like Inquisitives for the fact that they could exist on any world in any setting, including ours, and be perfectly functional and make sense.
Absolutely. And then I would also I am a fan of the Mastermind. It doesn't have quite the same obvious flavors, but the specific things that I like about this, the Master of Intrigue is a
Yeah.
great thing to have because it takes a trickster to know a trickster. And so if you are proficient with the disguise kit, the forgery kit, or a gaming set, you learn languages, you learn how to mimic people. And sometimes when you're making these kind of investigations, being able to be a little deceitful is good. The fact that you can use the help action in combat, I actually really like this because I feel like for a mystery scenario like what we're talking about, any combat is going to be taking down a potential instigator of this mystery. And so helping your friends is always good. And then
And
this,
that's at 30 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
just being able to
And
do,
as a bonus action. That's huge.
yep. And it is super effective in combat. It is really good. And the insightful manipulator is a little bit of that inquisitive in a much more specific context. Um, I like so in game terms, it's giving you intelligence score, wisdom score, charisma score, and class levels of someone that you are observing for a minute or more. But I, as the DM, if this was a mystery game and you were basically, I'm gonna have the knowledge cleric go and talk to this guy. I'm gonna stand back and just watch. And I'm the person in the corner, not saying anything, not doing anything, but just studying this person, not just to get this information, but as a DM, I'd be very tempted to basically give them more. I'm going to use this power to stand back and observe someone. And maybe it's going to be an advantage on an insight check. Maybe it's going to be just, it talks about at the DM's option, you might also realize, a piece of the creature's history or one of its personality traits.
Yeah.
Like really being able to read someone from a distance just by taking that moment, I think is super powerful in a game in where you're figuring out what the truth is.
Now, if you take all of these subclasses that we're talking about, you suddenly have a very mean team with eclectic skills. that are very good at sizing up every situation immediately.
And
Maybe a Dungeon Master's nightmare, but
I think if you've told your players, if
yeah,
you're all on board with a mystery game, I think you kind of have to expect some of these. And
absolutely.
then like the challenges that you're gonna have as a DM are the same challenges whether your party is extra good at stuff or not. And I would actually argue if your party is built to if they have gone this route and
Oh,
been
I
like,
love
we're
it when they do. I
right,
love unified party builds. I think it's
absolutely.
amazing. And to that point, since you brought up the Rogue Mastermind, let's go over to the Battle Master real quick.
Oh, I was gonna go there too. I'm so glad that you thought of this. This makes me so happy.
Because this is the mirror of the Mastermind in many ways. Because we've got, first off, maneuvers are one of the best things that you'll find in 5th edition D&D. Certainly it's existed in some other forms previously that, but it also has know thy enemy. And this is kind of the opposite in the way that you learn their strength score, their dexterity, constitution, armor class, current hit points, total class level, and fighter class levels, if any. Wow. So this can be very informative to the rest of the party. You get to be a fighter, but you're a very insightful fighter at the same time. You know if they're superior or inferior to you in several senses. I cannot explain how powerful this is, but there is something else that is very nasty about a battle master and a mastermind. And if we go up, let's look at some of the maneuvers, shall we? And the maneuvers have, in fact, changed in some really amazing ways because of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. First off, tactical assessment is coming from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This is really great. If you want to play that smart fighter, you're allowed to roll one of your combat superiority die and add it to your investigation check, your history check, or your insight check. So you can really play this very intelligent fighter. We've got more examples of this. In fact, if we move up a little bit more, and there we wait. No, that's it. Now we've got commanding presence, where at command, I think we skipped past it.
Nope, it's right here. When you make a charisma, intimidation, performance, or persuasion check, you can expend a superiority die and add it to the ability check. I
have a character that uses this, and it is super powerful. It's very useful to get that 1d6. If you really want to be that character who is great at persuasion, which is my bread and butter, even though I don't dip into the Bard College of Eloquence because I feel like that's almost too much. But it's a lovely subclass. This is really powerful. You get to play a different type of fighter. But I believe there is one here. Is it Commander Strike?
Commander Strike is the one where you tell one of your friends to attack. I was actually thinking of ambush, but
I mean, Commander Strike is particularly nasty because if you're working in tandem with, say, a mastermind, you're giving up your attack action to allow another player to use their reaction to attack. Now, if that rogue, say the mastermind, has not used their sneak attack yet, as a reaction, they get 2 sneak attacks per turn instead of 1. And this is a devastating amount of damage. And the fact that you and this fighter both can size up the same person and get all of their stats and all of their information makes this a 1-2 punch. You can figure out just about everything about them, who their parents are, who their grandparents are, and you can set each other up for some really nasty damage. Being able to give the rogue the ability to use its sneak attack as a reaction is a dream come true.
And these are both characters who chances are using a melee weapon, or even if they're using a ranged weapon, these are characters who are going to have an easier time knocking someone out because there's a lot of DMs and games that rule that you can't do non-lethal damage with magic. And in a mystery game, you're probably attacking someone because you're trying to take them in for questioning or stop them from running away. You don't necessarily want to kill somebody. And so being able to have these two characters come together and do an amazing amount of damage, but also have it be non-lethal damage is really nice.
Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting what's the benefit to particularly the battle master in this situation is you have that mastermind give you advantage on one of your attack rolls. Once that happens, you should probably be taking what's the aiming feat again for bows and crossbows?
Crossbow expert.
Is it?
I think it's crossbow, or is it
one
sharpshooter?
where you take the -5?
Oh, that's sharpshooter. Yeah, where you take a minus.
So go ahead and take that -5 for the chance to do a flat 10 extra points of damage on your next attack. You know you have advantage, so you have a high rate of success now, and now it's worth it. So you are now doing tons of damage with, say, a heavy crossbow, and because, again, the mastermind can do this at 30 feet, can help you away, it all works out perfectly and fun.
Absolutely.
Nasty stuff.
There's a couple of more options I want to be able to give.
Yeah, let's do it.
Some of the more esoteric stuff for the person who wants to play a class that isn't necessarily geared toward this, or they think so. I want to just kind of run through a couple of other options that I came up with. You mentioned bards, and I think there's actually 2 different bards that work well for
probably the lower bard, right?
Yeah, Lauren Whispers, I think, are both excellent.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what kind of investigator you want to be, lore is amazing just because you become that almost expert in everything, and the knowledge that you gain, especially from additional magical secrets, just once again having that breadth of abilities is amazing. And then Whispers is once again, it's a little more combat focused, but if you want to be the character that is the intense investigator, if you're going to solve a mystery by going undercover and becoming someone else, this is an excellent subclass for this. So either of these, I think, are going to be really good. It kind of depends on the flavor of the rest of your party, especially for Whispers. But either of these work really, really well. I would even argue swords, depending on, if everybody else in your party has decided to go like super duper knowledge and you need somebody who can actually wield a rapier, you go swords, and then you still have all that bard facility.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Was there any other ones you wanted to bring up?
I think the new sorcerer Aberrant Mind is great, because I think me as a dungeon master, and this isn't mechanically in the subclass itself, but I am a huge fan of the Aberrant Mind. I think you're going to see things a little bit differently, because your mind moves in strange directions, to quote 1980s Dune. But when we look at some of these psychic spells they have, these psionic spells, we have like detect thoughts. We have things like calm motions. We have sending. We have telepathic bond. We have telekinesis. These are pretty useful for investigation as well. You can also telepathically speak to people. Pretty huge. Beyond that, very, very kind of combat oriented, certainly. But the Arcane Trickster is something I love, and let's go back to the rogues real quick, because I am a huge fan of Arcane Tricksters. It's the one subclass, it's the first subclass I ever got to play specifically in a charity game, and it started me stealing and pickpocketing Patrick Rothfuss every time. It's the Arcane Trickster, because your mage hand is invisible, and you know what? Sometimes those books are really high up. Sometimes you need keys to certain areas of the library you wouldn't be able to get to. Maybe you need to steal a book. Maybe you need to steal a magical item. All kinds of stuff. It's Candlekeep. And
maybe you need to plant something on somebody.
Maybe you need to plant. Oh, I love doing that. That's my favorite thing. So, this hand ledger domain, which I hope I'm saying correctly, is probably the bread and butter of the Arcane Trickster. It's really, really, really good already. But here's something I love so much. And because my fears in Unearthed Arcana were when they introduced telekinetic as a feat, and I don't know if you can bring this up. And again, please remember, Mage Hand cannot be used to cast touch spells. That is not true. I hear this rumor all the time. Mage Hand can only pick things up and it's visible. But if you're an Arcane Trickster, it's invisible. And you can use your bonus action to stow an object, take an object out, or perform sleight of hand. Telekinetic initially did not have a bonus of 30 feet. I will say I was upset when I saw telekinetic because I felt like it stomped on the Arcane Trickster. This, however, now makes it better to be an Arcane Trickster because this increases the range of your Mage Hand by 30 feet. So now you have an invisible hand that can pickpocket and steal from 60 feet away. And to really get that through your head, a classroom is 30 feet. 60 feet is a sizable distance. Some of you probably can't see that far without glasses. So it's a long ways. That is a long way to sleight of hand somebody. Like they're gonna have no idea. And I love this. And also you get a bonus to either your wisdom, your intelligence, or your charisma on top of this. This is like great in a library situation, I think.
Absolutely.
Situation. Yeah.
I love that they were smart enough to think about the people who already had Mage Hand, who, to give those people an extra bonus to it, because it sucks when there's something out there that's like, oh, this feat is better than what I've already got. But I don't want to take it because it doesn't actually help. So that's amazing.
I'm definitely not taking any credit for this, and I have nothing to do with the design, but there were some strongly worded direct messages sent about telekinetic. I know I'm very associated with Warlocks, but the Arcane Trickster really is just the best of D&D to me. I'll be frank.
You say Warlock, and I do have a suggestion if you would like to play a Warlock in a mystery game.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
So I don't think any of these are exceptional for a mystery, and this is slightly more esoteric, but I would love to play a Genie Warlock because... not necessarily because of any of the stuff you get. Like, I think it's a solid subclass with a lot of great options, especially if you're looking at some of the spells that you get. But what I just love about the idea of being a Genie Warlock is having a space that you can go that is essentially... you can just turn it into your private sanctum to mull over things and not have to worry about being interrupted. This bottle that you have, I know they talk about it being appointed with cushions and tables and is comfortable and blah, 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 but I picture it as a laboratory.
Yeah.
If we're going to go down this road, then I'm going to talk to and maybe my DM is not going to give me like extra bonus stuff in there, but it's going to look like there's a desk and there's bookshelves and there's writing implements. And it's a place that you can go and puzzle things out in relative safety that you always have with you, which I find amusing. And then you have all of your other Warlock funness.
Now, this isn't a spoiler because we've written about it specifically. There is an article right now on D&D Beyond. There is a genie that factors very heavily into one of these adventures. And if you can tie in them as being one of your patrons, then that is chef's kiss for the Dungeon Master to add a little bit more incentive for you as to why you're playing this. And so I think that's a really great opportunity. And real quick, let's go, Wizard. I know we're running out of time. It's actually 1:00, but let's go ahead and run to Order of the Scribes.
Yep.
Obviously, divination is huge. We all know this. Diviner is, the diviner. They're literally the investigation wizard. But Order of Scribes is all about their book, and they're all about books. And their book can actually manifest eventually and become invisible, and you can see through its eyes and cast spells. And so this is, again, very, very handy for investigation of all kinds. So
can I offer... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So you are probably someone who would probably usually have a lot more access to Candlekeep.
Probably. Maybe you've even written a book that has ended up in Candlekeep. Who knows?
Yeah.
I want to real quick just run down a couple of other options. We ran out of time because there's so much to do. Druid, the Circle of Dreams or the Circle of Stars. I really like the Circle of Stars as an option, just because of some of the mechanics involved, but I think those are great. Monk, Way of the Shadow, especially if you're once again going to be one of those go into the dark and do investigations, or if you want to go Wildmount, Cobalt Soul is the obvious one. Go be Beauregard. It's amazing. Paladin, Oath of Devotion. If you're looking to be a paladin, you get access to Zone of Truth, and the aura of devotion is actually pretty powerful. And I kind of picture paladins in this role being kind of another option for your players who want to be the heavy but still want to have some of that investigative flavor. And Ranger Faye Wanderer, especially if your mystery is themed to include a lot of the extraplanar stuff or trickery, go Ranger Faye Wanderer. Rangers in general are really good at a lot of
investigation.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Horizon Walker may actually get to use its detect portal ability and kind of like get right to the quick of things. And also can turn ethereal and pass through objects. So
definitely, if you are going to be playing in a campaign or a one-shot that is a mystery game, don't feel like you have to be the rogue. Don't have to be the wizard, the divination wizard, or the ones that are obviously going to be good at this. Be the character you want to be, and then just take a look at some of these subclasses.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren Urban. That was our talk about both the new updates to the character builder as well as really fun subclasses to use during Mysteries of Candlekeep. That is available for pre-order right now on D&D Beyond. It has lots of our friends writing in this book. Please go check it out. Just fantastic people all around. Great friends. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of each other and stay safe.